Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you from Germany. Today is Sunday, the 22nd of April 2018. I'm so glad that you're watching today. If you're watching for the first time, then welcome. And if you're coming back, thank you ever so much for coming back, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Today is going to be a really quick episode. I debated whether to even record it all because I don't have that much stuff to show you guys. No finished objects for that matter, but I just thought I'd check in, announce the giveaway winner, talk about some works in progress and a tiny bit of stash enhancement, and then we'll be on our way. So, first of all, where can you find me or us or our group? You can find me on Instagram as the Happy Knitting Podcast, and we have a Ravelry group on Ravelry called the Happy Knitting Podcast Group, which is always linked underneath this video, but you can also find it on Ravelry in the Groups tab. Please feel free to join in. I always love seeing you guys on there, and there are plenty of things to do in the group, such as join in the knit-alongs, giveaways. We have sort of like a trade swap thread. We have shameless self-promotions. If you're a maker, you can show us what you're creating, making, designing, dyeing, that sort of thing. And yeah, you can find me on Ravelry as Wipfi, which is spelled W-U-E-P-F-I. And if you do want to get in touch with me, for example, about prize donations or anything like that, that is usually the easiest way to get in touch. So, talking about our group, we had a giveaway, which was the 3,000 subscriber giveaway. I ran it for about 2 weeks, and the prize is a skein of yarn from Mad Fuzzy Yarns, I talked about her, I think 2 episodes ago in quite a bit of detail. She sent me some yarn, and it's very, very special yarn. It's East Frisian yarn, which is different in terms of it's a milk fiber, I think, and I should know way more about this than I currently do, but the yarn that she sent me was beautiful. It is sort of a more rustic yarn, but it's perfect for socks, although she does also have like a DK base. So anyways, the prize was a skein of yarn from Mad Fuzzy Yarns shop, as well as a pattern of your choice from my Ravelry pattern store. And thank you so much to everyone who entered. There were so many interesting entries into this thread. I asked what your favorite or most interesting unusual yarn fiber base that you've used was, and I got so many interesting answers. It kind of makes me think whether maybe we would like to do a knit-along in the future with sort of unusual yarns and bases and cheap breeds and so on. That's something that I have on my mind, so let me know if you're interested in that. Anyways, I drew a winner using random number generator, and the winner was number 3, and that is Wunderkind, who is a Ravelry user based in Germany. So congratulations. Please get in touch with me as soon as you see this. Like I said, get in touch with me through Ravelry. My name is Wipfi, W-U-E-P-F-I. And as soon as you do, I will get you in touch with Marta, who will send the prize straight out to you. And also tell me which pattern you'd like, of course, and then I will send that to you as well. So congratulations, and thanks to everyone who entered. That was a really, really fun thread, and more than that, I also didn't expect to get so many lovely comments about my podcast, and yeah, that was just really, really nice. So, moving on from that, like I said, we don't have any finished objects, but we have a knit-along to talk about, which is the one that's currently running until May 15th, and that is the sock blankathon. So the idea is to knit something out of a sock blank. It doesn't have to be socks. You can knit a shawl, which I think at least one person did, and that turned out really, really beautiful. You can knit a sweater out of sock blanks, I don't care. The minimum requirement is that you use 50 grams of a sock blank, but you can combine that with any other yarn as well. You can use DK weight sock blanks. I'm pretty open with that. So there are so many fun finished objects already in the thread and also in the chatter thread. So please feel free to join in anytime. We have some lovely prizes, including some sock blanks from Sandra's Craftfulness to give away. And yeah, I'm just really excited about this knit along still. It makes me want to knit more sock blank socks, but I really shouldn't cast on anything right now. Oh well. So that's it for knit alongs, and I will move straight to works in progress. And one work in progress that I'm not going to show you today is my Fern and Feather sweater, which is a design by Jennifer Steingast. I showed that to you last week, and I said, oh well, I'm so close to finishing the body. And then I knit on it some more, and I tried it on, and it turned out that I still have quite a bit to go, because I do want it to be a sort of longer sweater. I don't want it to be cropped. But then I didn't have enough time, and I didn't want to keep working stockinette in the round, so I didn't really make that much progress, therefore I don't think it makes sense to show it today. But I do have another sweater to show you today. I think you've seen all of these works in progress before, so I'm sorry about that. But I just didn't have that much knitting time this week. But in here is my Bluff sweater by Ellie of Scandia Knits, who has the Scandia podcast. And this is a super popular pattern at the moment. It's her first colorwork sweater design. And I basically wanted to knit it ever since she started talking about it on the podcast. I didn't dare to do the test knit because at that time I was quite new at knitting colorwork sweaters. But yeah. So last time I showed this to you, I was still working on the yoke, and now I have split for the sleeves. So I think I was about halfway through that high contrast middle section of the yoke last time I spoke to you, and now I have finished it. I have separated for the sleeves and am now working on the body. I still love this design so much. I think this must be my favorite colorwork sweater that I've ever knit. I also really love the yarn and the colors that I'm using, which I'll talk about in a second. And yeah, I'm just so excited about this. I was thinking the other day, I did do short rows in the back, but I think I did less short rows than what Ellie suggested, because I can just never follow a pattern. I also am doing different decreases for the body. I did some sort of dart decreases at the back to just draw it in a little. Not sure if you can even tell. Just down here I did 2 sets of decreases, which is something I always used to do, and then Ellie talked about it in her podcast, I think a most recent one, and I was like, that's so exciting, because that's something I always did but never knew whether that actually makes sense to decrease in the back. So that just gave me lots of assurance that I'm doing the right thing, because I have a couple of sweaters where I didn't do any waist shaping at all, which I generally don't mind because I like oversized sweaters, but they kind of tend to hang off in the back, and that's really weird. So by just drawing it in a little in the back, that actually works really well. So yeah, very, very proud of this still. I really enjoy working on it. I should try it on at some point because I have not tried this on at all. And I know that my row gauge is quite off. That's a problem I seem to have a lot these days. I generally go down needle sizes on sweaters anyways, because I just tend to knit, or I like to knit at a looser gauge when I'm knitting. And like it's just less cramped up for my hands, so therefore I use smaller needles to get the gauge. But my row gauge just tends to be off, so I think for this you're supposed to have something like 22 centimeters after you finish the yoke, and I'm at like 28. And that happens to me with all of my yoked sweaters. I don't really mind it. I know I could have shortened the yoke, but I didn't want to do that, and it generally just means that it's a little bit more roomy, like around the front and around the arms and shoulders, so I don't mind that too much. But it is something where I don't really know how to fix that. I don't think there is a real way of fixing it. Probably I would just have to adjust the patterns and fudge it. I don't really mind, but yeah, it's something I haven't really had to deal with in the past with sweaters, because most sweaters, if they're not colorwork yoke sweaters, it doesn't really matter. You just knit until you have a certain length or depth. But obviously with colorwork, you have rows that have different colors, so you can't just go by the size, you have to go with the pattern as well. But anyways, I'm just rambling on about this. I really, really, really love this sweater, and the yarn that I'm using is Drops Flora, which I've talked about plenty of times. It's an alpaca and wool blend by Drops, and it's beautifully woolly, and I don't want to say rustic because it's a very, very soft yarn, but it's a proper wool yarn at the same time, which I really like. And as usual, I have a couple of colorways in here. The gray that I'm using is colorway number 3, and the blues I don't actually know, but I think I have them tagged in my project page. I used 3.25 millimeter needles for the color work, and for the body I'm using 3 millimeter needles, which is that a US size 2 maybe? I'm not quite sure. This is actually the first time that I went up a needle size for the color work. Usually I like to do my color work on the same size needles, but I do realize that my gauge just tends to be a little bit bigger with the ends in plain stockinette, and because they are short rows, if I hadn't gone down a needle size, I think this would have been all puffy and weird. So I'm happy I did that, and it seems to work out quite well with the gauge. So yeah, if you want to see the inside of my floats, which apparently is a thing, I really love the look of that as well. Especially because with this sweater I didn't carry any, I did carry the yarns, but I didn't, what's it called? I didn't pick up any floats. I just left them because they were short enough for me that I knew it was going to be fine, so that just makes the floats look extra nice, I think. Which of course is totally irrelevant for the sweater, but I like it. So anyways, I've been going on about this way too long. Let's move on to some other works in progress. So I still, of course, have all these socks on the needles, and I'm not really making progress, which is getting annoying. I'm really suffering from second sock syndrome at the moment. Usually I'm not that bad, but I have two pairs of socks that are pretty much both stuck at the same point, and I just want to cast on new socks rather than finish these. So the first pair is, oh yeah, and I don't think I need a spoiler warning anymore because I'm using a colorway from Hedgehog from the clubs, but that was in March. So I think everyone should have seen that colorway by now. But spoiler warning anyways, I'm using the March colorway from the Hedgehog Fibers Sock Club. So this is what my first sock looks like. I have finished the first one. I had a long train ride last week. So I finished my first sock. It's just a plain vanilla sock. I didn't put in a sock blocker because I'm unprepared. I did my usual 64 stitches on a 2.25 millimeter US size 1 needle with a fish lips heel, a 2x2 rib, just very, very standard plain socks. This colorway is called Cherry Bop, but to me this just looks like a watermelon, so I'm calling these my watermelon socks. And I think it's a really fun colorway. This is in their Hedgehog sock base, which is a 90% merino, 10% nylon base. And I've talked plenty of times about how much I like this base for socks. I don't really know why I'm having trouble finishing these because it's a beautiful yarn. I'm really liking the base, I'm really liking the colors, but I'm just really sick of these. But anyways, yesterday I cast on the second sock and haven't done very much. But I'm hoping that once I get through the ribbing, they'll fly, hopefully, and be done pretty soon. I also have lots of train knitting coming up this week, so I'm going to take my socks and just force myself to work on them, at least on the train ride home when I'm not working, and hopefully make some progress. And I'm using my Higher Sharps for these. I'm always using either Higher Sharps or Chaogu red lace needles for my socks. I'm constantly torn which ones I like better. These ones, I don't like the cable as much because it does have a memory, and I've used my Higher Sharps so much that at some point, I mean, obviously they have to wear off after a couple of years and like so many pairs of socks, so I don't really blame them, but you can see that there is some memory in the cord. But I do think these are my fastest needles. I think they're a tiny bit, I guess they slide better than the Chaogus do. So I do really like them for the needles, and they have perfect joints. I think I'm using my other favorite needles on my second pair of socks, so let's just talk about that really quick. So these socks, oh, I don't have them on my needles yet, but these are the Chaogu red lace, which I said is my second favorite kind of sock needles. They're also metal, but these ones have this red cord, which is a lot more stable. It has sort of like a metal lining in the inside, I believe. Let's see if my camera can do this. Well, that's not too bad. So it's a bit stiffer of a cord. I know some people really don't like it. I actually really enjoy this cord. And this one doesn't have any memory at all, which I love. The join is also great, but I don't know. I feel like these don't slide as fast as the Hayahayas do. But I really love both of these needles. They're definitely my two favorite needles to go to for sock knitting. Anyways, how did I get onto this tangent? My second work in progress in terms of socks is this sock. Again, not on a sock blocker. So for this one, I haven't started the second one yet. I'm so bad with second sock syndrome. And again, this yarn is really beautiful. I'm not sure why I'm not getting ahead with these. So the yarn I'm using for this is yarn from Sandra of Craftfulness. She's the one who's giving away prizes, by the way, for our sock blankathon. And she sent me this to try her BFL base. And this is the colorway Cold Jumping Jack. And again, I knit a pair of plain vanilla socks. And these are just so beautiful. I really like them. I really like the BFL base as well. It's a little bit more rustic, but it has a sheen to it that I really like. I do like BFL. It's not necessarily my favorite fiber, but I do like wearing it a lot. So yeah, this is what this colorway looks like. I think it's really stunning. And again, as you can see, I just did a plain vanilla sock. This time I did a garter stitch heel. I did the Fish Lips Kiss heel in garter stitch, which you can do with any short row heel. You just need to knit the purl stitches. So yeah, that is my second work in progress, and I really should get the second sock on the needles. Like I said, I think I'm going to take both of these sock projects on my train trip on Thursday and hopefully make some progress. I don't know why I'm so bad with second sock syndrome at the moment. And before you suggest 2 at a time sock knitting, I have done that before and I do actually really quite like it. I just don't really like it for traveling. If I know that I have a lot of like on-the-go knitting, I prefer 1 at a time. And like I said, usually I don't have second sock syndrome. I don't know what's going on. But oh well, I think I have enough stress in my life. I really don't want to stress myself out about knitting, so if I want to cast on more things, maybe I just will, and who cares? It's my knitting anyways, isn't it? It's not like there's anyone judging me if I have 12 half-finished pairs of socks. My last work in progress that I'm going to show you today is my Impressionist MCAL knit-along. So if you do not want to be spoiled, please look away, because I am about, well, 3/4 done with clue 4, so I'm almost finished with the shawl. So please look away, because I'm going to show the shawl now. But again, the question is, how much are you really going to see of the shawl, because this is scrunched up on the needles. It's a huge shawl. But anyways, so like I said, clue 4 it came out on Saturday. Today is Sunday, and it's a relatively short clue, so I think I'm pretty far ahead. I did the last of the lace, and now it is just a garter stitch knit until I bind off. There's supposed to be a picot bind off, but I don't like picot bind off, so I don't think I'm going to do that. But yeah, this is sort of what it looks like. I'm really, really enjoying it, and I can't wait to see this thing done. I really can't wait to block this. I think I might finish it today and block it, because it's super warm outside and this thing will be dry in a minute. And yeah, I just can't wait. And I also really just want to have this off my needles. So yeah, just a couple of garter stitch rows to go, which doesn't sound too bad, except the rows are like 500 and something stitches, so that does slow me down. But yeah, this is the Impressionist shawl by Curious Handmade of Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. The needles that I'm using are my Adi Lace needles, which are my favorite shawl needles, now that apparently today is a needle episode. I'm doing 3.5mm US size 4 needles. I think you're supposed to use 4mm, but oh well, I just like to knit my shawls on 3.5mm needles, and added bonus of that is that you don't have to worry about running out of yarn too much. The yarns that I've used, this lightest color is a German yarn by Zauberwiese. It's a merino and silk blend. Let's see if you can see that. It doesn't have a colorway name. It's just called 5763, but I do think it's a one of a kind. And I got this ages ago. Then my red yarn, or my pink yarn, is a yarn that I got in France. This is Toile Martin yarns, and I can't find the tag. Where is it? Oh, there it is. So this is, she has an Etsy store, and this is a 100% merino yarn in the colorway Enchanté. And my darkest yarn is another German yarn that I bought in Austria, though, in Vienna. This is Das Mondschaf. Just this label in her glitter base, so it's a merino and stellina yarn, and the colorway is Greyjoy. I don't usually mix bases. I'm very boring in terms of, I just like to knit things out of the same base. So, for example, mixing a singles yarn with a plied yarn. I know lots of people do it, but for me, I just don't really do that. So for me to mix a glitter base with a silk base with a 100% merino base is very unusual, but I don't know, for this shawl I don't really mind. So anyways, can't wait to get this done. I think the colors together, they look really nice, so I really can't wait to see. I think you're only really going to see the full effect of this thing once it is all off the needles and blocked out, and yeah, I can't wait. I think this is going to be huge as well. And I'm not quite sure, I think I have about like 3 or 4 rows to go, but I have that much yarn left, so theoretically I could just keep knitting. But then, am I really going to do that? I don't know. We'll see. So anyways, that is my mystery shawl. I'm just going to put it away again, so those people who have been looking away can look back and not be spoiled. So yeah. That is it for my works in progress. So the only thing I have left to show you yarn-wise is a little bit of stash enhancement, and that is the latest shipment of the Hedgehog Fibers Sock Club. So I am part of the sock club, not the twist base, but the actual normal sock base. And this just arrived about a couple of days ago. So if you are part of the club and you don't want to see it, again, please look away. I'm so sorry about that, but I'm going to show the yarns and talk about them. Look away if you don't want to see it. So this might be my favorite ever shipment of the Hedgehog Fiber Sock Club that I've ever had. I was so excited when I got these 2 skeins. I'll show them to you one by one. This is the first one. It is called Fern. I'm not sure how you spell this or what this is. I don't get the reference. So this is their 9010 merino nylon sock base, and isn't this just beautiful? I absolutely love these colors. They're different to what I usually buy, but they're just so beautiful. I really love the tonality and the depth of this colorway. I just love everything about it. I'm so excited about this one. And then the second one that I got is equally beautiful, although completely different. It's this one. And I just jumped with joy when I saw this one. I just think this is so fun. This one is called Flutter, and it's this super bright sunny yellow, and it has all these pink streaks throughout and speckles, and again, a very different thing from the first one, but I just love this. And again, this is the thing I love about Hedgehog Fibers. Most of the skeins you get are completely different from any other thing you have in your stash already. It's just so unusual, and oh my gosh. So yeah, I am crazy happy with these 2 skeins. This has made my second time getting the club completely worth it once again. And yeah, I just love hedgehog fiber so much. In case you haven't been able to tell, I used to not get the fuss about this yarn because it's just another sock yarn, but it is really, really beautiful. And I think the dyers behind hedgehog fibers yarn are just so talented. So yeah, I got my hedgehog fix. And you guys, this is it in terms of yarn. So I'm just going to talk to you about life in general now. So if you're only here for the yarn, then I will see you again next week. Thank you for watching. And if you do want to stick around, you can just hear me waffle on about nothing. I sell this so well, don't I? So, in terms of life in general, what's been happening? Where do I start? I think I mentioned last week that I've been having a pretty stressful time at work, and this last week was better than the weeks before, so definitely an improvement, but I'm still pretty stressed out about work. It's been very, very busy, and I'm kind of functioning at like 120%, which is not gonna work long time, but it works for now, and so things are going relatively good. I did a workshop last week. I'm going to do another one this week, which is fun, but tends to really exhaust me. Like I usually leave the house at like 6 o'clock in the morning to get the train, and then I get back around midnight, and it's just exhausting when you're not used to it. And I'm getting better at it, but it still takes so much energy and stuff. But at least on the way home, usually I do some knitting, and at least that way I feel kind of productive. And we do have Wi-Fi on our ICE trains, so I get to watch podcasts, and I just try to make the most of my train time, which on these days is like anything between 8 and 10 hours of train. So yeah, besides work, we have summer. So all of a sudden it's like super hot outside. Everyone is doing the barbecues and spending time outside, and it's really, really, really nice. It's kind of sad because you guys know, and you're probably the same, like as a knitter, suddenly like I can't even wear my hand knit socks anymore, and it's really sad. But at the same time, it's so nice to finally have some sun. So we've been spending lots of time outside. We went to our favorite restaurant at Lake Starnberg on Friday night. I did record a little bit of like the sunset over the lake, so I might include some footage, or maybe I've already put it in the beginning of the video. And then yesterday we did some spring cleaning, and we had some guests at night, which was really fun. Today it's only like, I don't know, 2 o'clock or something now, but we've already taken a really, really long walk along the river into the city. Went out for ice cream, so it's just a lot of outside time, and it's really, really nice. In other news, we have booked our next holiday, and oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so ready and excited for it. So I think we're going to go away for about 10 days in the end of June, beginning of July. And we're not terribly creative, so once again we're going to the south of France because we both just love France so much. And I can't wait. For those of you in the area, we're going once again to Côte d'Azur, north of Nice or Nizza, depending on where you are and how you want to pronounce it. We have rented a little place. I think it's going to be really, really beautiful, and oh my gosh, I need a holiday so badly. So we booked everything on Friday night and settled on our little place that we wanted to rent. And then yesterday, after we'd already paid and everything, they got back to us, and there had been a mess up with the dates on their terms. So we had to cancel our booking again. And then this morning actually, we sat down again, and now we found a new place, which I actually think is a lot nicer. We booked through Airbnb for the first time. And I am just so excited. I'm going to take all the knitting. And yeah, I just can't wait. And of course, once again, if you have yarn shop ideas in the Nice area, please let me know. when we were in Nice about a year ago, I went to one yarn store and then found out that I should have gone to another one. I think the one that I really want to go to this time is called La Droguerie. I've heard really good things about that. But please give me your recommendations if you have any. I would always appreciate that. So I think besides that, there is not that much new. To be honest, the weeks are just flying by at the moment, and like today, I realized I haven't done very much knitting at all, which is very unusual for me. I don't have any finished objects. I don't have any new cast-ons, so yeah. I need to find more knitting time, but there are a couple of public holidays coming up. I think there's only one more full week to go, and then I also have a couple of days off, thankfully, around my birthday. So I'm hopeful that soon I'll have a little bit more knitting time again. So, I think that is it for the podcast today. I said it was going to be a short one. I don't even think it was that short now because I just tend to ramble on about things. But I'm so glad that I got to catch up with you. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you have lots of fun with your knitting. As usual, please join in the group, join in the chat, or join in the comments. I always love hearing from you guys. And until I see you again, which will be next weekend, have a great week. Happy knitting. Thank you for watching. Bye.